Hello, I'm Vance Mortensen, pastor of the Raquette Lake Chapel in Raquette Lake, New York. Thank you for joining me today for this special Thanksgiving service. This being the Sunday before Thanksgiving, it occurs to me that perhaps we should spend the whole week giving thanks for the wonderful creation that we live in. I'm going to start out with a very short piece from the Thanksgiving address, which was created by the what we call the Iroquois or the Haudenosaunee group, Iroquois Confederacy, that certainly people who live in this part of the country are familiar with. Indigenous peoples, First Peoples, to me, seem to have a very strong connection to and appreciation for the world around them, and not just for what's out there, but their relationship and their benefits that they get from the natural world, and also for their responsibility back toward it. So I'm going to start tonight's reflective service with a brief section from that Thanksgiving address. And then we're going to go into some more familiar scripture with some pauses for us to think and perhaps meditate a little bit and pray. Thank you for joining me again. Let's begin. We turn our thoughts to the Creator or the Great Spirit, and we send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life here on Mother Earth is here. And for all the love that is around us, we gather our minds together as one, and we send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. And now our minds are one. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. How do we appreciate these days darkness and light and the wind? Those are gifts of creation. They're what give us our day. They're what give us what we wake up to and what we go to sleep to at night. Can we be thankful for lightness and dark? God said, let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And so God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. Are we thankful for the sky? Certainly we have images of the wonderful clouds, and goodness knows I've seen countless photographs of cloud formations. But also in the sky we see impending storms as well. Are we thankful for storms? Are we thankful for clear skies? Perhaps we should look at both of those as gifts from God. God said, let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called the seas. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees bearing every kind of fruit with seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the third day. It's very clear and obvious to us the benefits that we receive from the plants that are on the earth with us. A lot of us spend or have spent time gardening, and we know how dependent we are on all of the things around us that go into having a successful garden. People who have ever planted trees can really appreciate what it takes for a tree to grow. And I would have to mention that anybody who has ever cut down a tree has a deep appreciation for what went into its growth. Let us be thankful this week of the plants that surround us. God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. Have you ever thought about how dependent we are on those lights and the natural movements of sun, moon, the rotation of the earth, the appearance of the stars, the disappearance of the stars? How all of this affects the way we live. If you've ever worked in a job where you had to work like the third shift, where your day began at midnight and went till 8 in the morning, you have felt a real disruption into the pattern of life. That's not easy to do, and my heart goes out to those people who are around us, particularly people who from the medical profession, the first responders who have shifts like that, because while we're sleeping soundly, they're awake and watchful. We can be thankful for not just the day and the night, but for those people who during the night stand and watch over us. God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky." And so God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves of every kind with which the waters swarm, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds multiply upon the earth." And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day. So this week, thinking about what happened on the fifth day in creation, clearly the ocean, full of water, is full of life, and how much we are dependent upon the water and the things in the water, but also how the water interacts with the rest of the earth. It brings us rain. It brings us moisture to dry lands. Think about the air, too. The air as being an ocean of life. Without air, without the ocean, we would not exist. Let's be thankful for our oceans of air and water. God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle, creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. And God made the wild animals of the earth and every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind. And God saw that it was good. Well, we don't have to think about that very much. Certainly, we are kept alive by the animals and the living creatures that live upon the dry land. Certainly, we're aware of the creatures living in the oceans of water and sky. But we're also thankful for the land and what that brings us. And that also makes us mindful of how we impact those things. Just a brief story. A couple of years ago, we went to a museum not far from here, and part of it was dedicated to the really wild places that are on this part of the earth. We're all familiar with the wild places around the world. And the older that I get, the more I realize there are not that many wild places left. At any rate, the point of this was that there are trails leading upon the high peaks around here, and people are urged to stay on those trails. And the reason is it is so hard in the harsh conditions that we see in the north for plants to grow that even a footstep on the ground disrupts the natural cycle of life. There are religions in the world where people are so conscious of life that they attend very carefully to where they walk and how they breathe, lest they do damage to the earth. And perhaps this week is a time for us to think about how we walk on the earth and how we affect those things on the dry land. And then God said, let's make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish in the sea and over the birds of the air and over the cattle and over all the wild animals of the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Well, here we are. We have arrived. Two things that we may want to ponder a little bit. Let us make humankind in our image. Do we really live like we are in the image of God? Do we think about that very much? What would that mean? What does that mean, to live like we are the image of God? Are we just a reflection of what God might be? I don't think so. I think we live in the image of God and that we are connected to God. And having dominion over the earth and the creatures of the earth. The word dominion for me conjures up, I'm sorry to say it, oppression, control over. Well, yes, we do. We have control over a lot of things. Maybe we should think about, as we go into Thanksgiving, how it is that we exert our dominion, our control over the things of the earth. God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish in the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And God said, see, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, and you shall have them for food. And to every beast on the earth, and to every bird in the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, everything that has breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. And then rest. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their multitude. And on the seventh day God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all of the work that he had done. And so God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the earth that he had done in creation. We talk about rest a lot, don't we, and taking a day off. How many of us have really practiced that? I think there are some religions that come to mind that have very strict rules about what you do on the Sabbath. Maybe that's something we should think about in our own lives, especially as we approach Thanksgiving. A day of Thanksgiving. I wonder what that would be like. And now we have turned our thoughts to the Creator, or the Great Spirit. And we send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. And for all that love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one. We send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. And now our minds are one. May it be so. Amen. Thank you for joining me. Have a blessed week.